بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما صلاة تفتح لنا بها باب الرضا والتيسير وتغلق بها باب الشر والتعسير أنت مولانا فنعم المولى ونعم النصير السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. You know, some of the brothers at the back, I'm wearing Abdul Samad Qureshi Oud for you. Come closer. The walls don't need you. Alhamdulillah. What do you want out of the next 30 minutes with this? The problem with speakers is that we just yap on and think that this is what you want to hear. But what do you want out of the next 30 minutes? So listen, I'm a tough cookie. I don't move until you speak. What are you hoping for from this? Gee.
How we can help people who are suffering with mental health disorders, family members, friends,
Yeah.
in Islam, what do you believe?
How we can help. Yeah. Good. Good one, that.
To recognize it.
How to recognize it. Yeah. For who?
Both the person suffering.
Yeah. Those who are suffering and people that you know. Yeah. One more thing. Anything else? Causes. Yeah. Yeah, really important. MashaAllah. So, apologies for the speed, because usually I spend about 90 minutes doing this, but Mona said you got 30, 40 minutes, which is fine, no problem. So just apologies for the speed. So I'm going to skip a few slides as we go along. But actually, one thing I want you to understand is that when you look at mental health, often we see it as a negative concept. Someone has a mental health problem, it's a negative concept. How are you? You okay? Didn't see you there. MashaAllah. Good to see you. Alhamdulillah. So if we see it as a negative issue, but actually if somebody has really good emotional state, emotional regulation, mental health, you can actually thrive, really. You'll be in your element, you can literally push through anything. And that's why I say to patients, if you've got two people, let's say you've got two men, 40 years old, same socio-economic status, same family setup, same social life, same everything. But why is it that one person can be, they can both have the same problem? Let's just say, loss of a job or a significant diagnosis of cancer, something that's life-changing, right? You can have two people, but why do they have completely different outcomes? They're exactly the same on the outside. Why do some people push through? Why do some people not push through? And it's because people who are psychologically strong, who can manage, and this is an important word, managing emotional regulation, managing emotions, they can push through life, whatever life throws at them. So actually having really good mental health is actually a ridiculously important thing to have. Now, what's the problem with men? What's the problem with us? We hold it in, right? Why? Culturally, why? So let's go back to when I was a kid, right? If I fell over on the bike and I started crying, what would Dad say?
Man up.
Get up, man up. Okay, let me ask you a question. Do men cry? Absolutely, yes. Who was the greatest man of all time? The Messenger of Allah. Did he cry? Yes. Who was one of the strongest Sahaba? Umar radiallahu anh. Umar, he was known towards the end of his life, he used to have 2 indentations on his cheeks by virtue of the amount of crying he used to do. Radiallahu anhu wa ardah. So it's totally okay. So because culturally we're told that you're not supposed to show emotion, men hold it in. Okay? And then what happens eventually? Pop. Okay, commonest cause of death for men in this country between the ages of 18 and 50. Suicide. Commonest cause of death for any male or female 18 to 34? Suicide. How tragic is that? Children under the age of 18. Commonest cause of death? Accidents. Number 2, cancer. Number 3, suicide. These are not good statistics for people in this country. Okay, so it's the commonest cause of death for men. So men hold it in, and often men pop. So it's actually really important to have these open conversations, because if you look at my workload, I mean, Hassan, you're involved with this, right? My workload, easy 60-70% mental health. And often it's men who come in, they call it the blue chair effect. So in my room there's a blue chair, right? They sit down, how are you, how can I help you? And they just cry. And then you go through, it's the same thing, same patterns over and over again. So it's really important to actually break this, especially in our culture, because there was a study, and this is where we have ultra adult conversations, okay? One of the things that you realize over the next 3 nights is that I offend a lot of people, But I have to say from the depths of my heart, honestly, I couldn't care less, because things need to be said. Do you get me? And if they're not said, we're going to still be stuck in this problem. But there was a study done in London in a really dense Muslim population where they could see that people were struggling with life. But why are they not going to the doctor to seek help? So they interviewed this dense Muslim population in London, and they concluded the reasons why they don't go to the doctor to seek help for mental health reasons, right at the top was what? Yeah, sharm. You know that concept of log kya kehega? So they would refuse to go to the doctor. Okay, number 2, any ideas why they wouldn't go? It would impact their marriage prospects. That was number 2. So if I'm already married, so if I was to go look for a second wife, are there sisters here? No, they're at home? One wife. How many? One, just to make it clear, right? If I was to go look for a first wife, right, then, and I said, oh, you know, I've got blood pressure, high blood pressure, and I take tablets for it. What are the chances of my marriage getting stuppered? 0. If I say, actually, you know, I've got depression and I'm on medication for that called sertraline, would that father give his daughter to me in marriage? No or no? The answer is no. So that's number 2. And number 3, this was in the dense Muslim population, the idea was the commonest reason, you're talking about causes, right? The community said the commonest cause for mental health problem was? Huh? Marriage. So the third talk, so tomorrow's addictions, the third one's about love, right? I've been married, alhamdulillah, 21 years. I'm still on honeymoon period. And I'll tell you why in 2 nights' time. It's the barakat of Hazrat Yusuf Samahimullah. The advice he gave me, I'll share that with you on Sunday night, inshallah. Beautiful advice. As you know, I was listening to him on the way here. One of his bayans that he gave in the reunion, and subhanAllah, I still miss his blessings. So what a beautiful man he was. Rahimullah. So the commonest cause they found was jinn. That people would think that it's because of jinn or jadoo. Okay, do we believe in jinn? Of course we do. There's some here if you can't see them. Right? It's okay, somebody goes, There's a few here, right? Of course we do believe in jadoo. Absolutely, yes. Al-ainu haqq. The Prophet said, that's why we have ruqya. But these people will believe, we Muslims believe that was the reasons why it happened. So it's misunderstood. But actually the reason why it happened, these things do exist, but the reason why it happens is because, and you've got to understand this really carefully, like we're having adult conversations. Life throws stuff at you. It's called life, it's nothing personal. But the issue we've got here today, is that we've got this. Anybody recognize what this is trying to say? You can tell the world that you're super happy, super busy, super successful, super rich, super everything. You've got life figured out, but actually, and you can do that on your social media feeds, but actually you're drowning. And we've got a plethora of people out there who are drowning. Like there are so many, the hadith of the Prophet towards the end of time. A man will walk past a maqbara and he would say, "Ya laytani fi hadha." I wish I was in there. There are so many people out there who say, it's better off me just not being alive. Because what's happening in the world, you're supposed to be like that apple putting on a filter. And that's really hard to do because life isn't like that. Okay, so I'm going to quickly skip a few slides. Okay, I want you to understand how the mind works. It's really, really interesting how the mind works, right? I'll give you a scenario. I'm driving here. I'm a careful driver. I had to, I was worried I wasn't going to get here on time because I had to do my tarawih. My son was doing tarawih, so I want to catch his tarawih. And then I'm coming here. I'm a safe driver. Imagine I'm driving, right? And there's a muppet who's driving and he nearly cuts me up, right? We're in the masjid. Please maintain the decorum of the masjid, right? I'm driving, you're going to be me. Some muppet cuts me up, right? What's the first thing that's going to come into my head? Some of you are laughing, thinking I maintain the decorum of the masjid, right? Okay, so what you've described is a thought, right? This is where the trip up is with men. Before a thought, what comes? So that thing is, you idiot, is the thought. What comes before the thought? Emotion. Okay, emotion, how quickly does it come? 0.2 millisecond. One of Ashraf Ali Thani rahimahullah, one of his greatest khulafa, Maulana Masihullah Khan Sahib rahimahullah, who my parents were honored that he did their nikah. rahimahullah, he said that the first emotion that comes into your brain is out of your volition. So you're not blameworthy. But where you take it, you are. Does that make sense? The way Allah's made the mind is that you're not blameworthy for the first emotion to come in, because that's tabi'i, that's jibillah, that's normal. But where you take it is an option, is a choice. So the first emotion that's going to come into my head as that guy cuts me up is what? What's the emotion? Anger. Okay? Then the thought comes in, you idiot, beep, beep, few fingers would go up, right? And then what's my behavior? What am I going to do? Huh? Put my foot down and go, yes bro, let's dance. You got to go, right? That's where your mind goes, isn't it? It's like anger. Oh, did you just do that? Then thought process, I'm going to kill you. And then the behavior kicks in, right? And you've got a short window to deal with that. Now, the way Allah's made the mind is like, Steve Peters, Professor Steve, he codified it, but he calls it the chimp, but we call it the nafs. The nafs is like a chimp. And he says, you've got to see the chimp, or we call it the nafs, that's your emotional brain. Now, it's the way Allah's designed us. The emotional brain is 20 times faster than rational brain. Okay, that's what's playing in our mind in any given time. You have emotional brain and you have rational brain. Okay, it's like in Tarawih, your emotional brain is saying, come on, hurry up, man. And your rational brain is saying, no, this is really good for me. It's like a fight. It's constantly happening, right? I have to say, Tarawih here is beautiful, mashallah. I was listening to it before I came in. It is absolutely beautiful, mashallah. You don't see that Gujarati, it's like, I'm saying you can like listen and actually, no, on a serious note, learn Arabic, lads, honestly. How many times are you going to let Ramadan pass over and over again and you just sit there daydreaming? Wallah, you're losing so much when you don't learn Arabic, because it's like Allah, there's no other religion where three times a day you can hear the dhikr of what Allah has revealed, what God has revealed in one of His books. And there's no other religion where in the entire month you get to listen to the whole Quran cover to cover. And I'm telling you, your lives will change. And I learned this when I went to Egypt in Arabic. I was next to people, who we diss, clean shaven, wearing, football, no libas when they go to the masjid. And they're like 17, 18. These guys, when I was in Egypt, in Cairo, these guys were, one on my right, one on my left, bawling like babies. Because they were listening to the dhikr of Allah. And I was thinking, I got to learn this. Now don't you're blocking your relationship between you and your Lord by blocking Arabic, right? So the emotional brain's kicking in your rational, right? You've got that to deal with. Now the risk is, what scientists say is that if you are permanently emotional, that will be your default. So when life hits you with something, when Allah throws something at you, your response won't be rational, it will be emotional. Whereas actually you can train your brain to do anything. You can train your brain to be rational so that when something hits you, you have a rational response and you pause with the emotions. And let me tell you somebody who was amazing at this. It was the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Like he had this, he was an absolute walking, talking genius when it comes to psychology or medicine. He had this imagine Hudaybiyah. Who's walked from Makkah to Medina? There's hijrah walks going on now. It'll take you a week. And you're in ihram, right? You just got two cloths and there's no aircon like coach or, car to take you. You're walking, right? And you get there and you're about 50 kilometers away and they block you from going. And Sayyidina Umar is like, after they signed Hudaybiyah, which on the apparent was against the Muslims, he went to the Prophet ﷺ and said, you said we were going to go to Umrah. Why did you? And the Prophet ﷺ just smiled and said, did I say this year? Did I say this year? Now look at that emotional. Can you imagine you've got, how many Sahaba were at Hudaybiyah? Mana? Can you imagine that? You've got 1,400 men kicking off, right? And then the Umar radiallahu anhu goes to the Prophet and he just smiles and says, did I say this year? You see how much he had control of his mind. And then who did he go to next? He still bothered him, so he went to Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. And he said, we're going to go Umrah. Did he say this year? And Umar said, I realized his maqam, Siddiq al-Akbar. He goes, when he asked, he's just like the Messenger. And that's what when the Prophet Abu Bakr arrived in Medina, there was Sahaba who, because there was no Facebook or Instagram in those days, they didn't know what the Prophet looked like. They mistook Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu for the Prophet because they thought it was him. And you look at the Quran, where Allah says about, you'll do this as the nights roll on, when Musa alayhi salam and the tribe of Bani Israel, when Fir'aun was chasing them and they came to the river, and he stuck his staff and said, no, we're not going to drown. Inna ma'iya rabbi sayahdin. My Lord is with me, he will guide us. Okay, what did the Prophet ﷺ say to Abu Bakr in the cave? In la tahzan inna Allaha ma'ana. And the ulama say, look at the difference. That Musa alayhi salam would say to his companions, Kalla inna ma'iya rabbi. My Lord is with me. He didn't say ma'ana. But the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said to Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, Inna Allaha ma'ana. And the ulama explain that the yaqeen that Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu had was on par with prophecy. That's why he said, Inna Allaha ma'ana. And that's why Musa alayhi salam said to his companions, Inna Allaha ma'i. Allah's with me. And that was the maqam of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. But who was his teacher? The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and someone who was his best friend, who spent his whole life with him pre-prophecy and after prophecy. And so the point I'm trying to make to you is that maqam of having that high rational thought process that can override your emotional brain, yes, is prophetic, but Abu Bakr wasn't a prophet radiallahu anhu, which means it's achievable for who? All of us. And then the concept radiallahu anhu wa radu an, one of our teachers said to us in tafsir, it's a beautiful statement. He said, look, that door is open for all of us to reach the maqam of radiyallahu hu, ذَلِكَ لِمَنْ خَشِيَ رَبَّ. You just have khashya of your Lord, which we'll come to, why that's so important for mental health. So what happens, you have that thought process, but the good news is, imagine that guy who we're driving, right, and he cuts me up, and then well before that 0.2 millisecond, he can telepathically say to me, you know what, bro, I'm so sorry, man. This is a new car, and I needed a pee, and I'm going to wet myself. Look what's happened to your brains right now. Can you see how just in an instant? So my emotion went from anger to what? Quite chilled, isn't it? My thought process of you idiot to what? Well, you're still an idiot. You shouldn't be. You should have gone to the toilet before you went into the car, right? But I'd be a bit more chilled, wouldn't I? And you'd be like, you know what, bro? Just go. I hope you make it. Okay, what's that called? That's called putting things into perspective. Okay? Which we're going to mainly focus on, okay? So I'm skipping a lot of slides because I'm conscious of time, but just the bit about how to recognize it, okay? How do you reckon? So hold on to that bit because that's really important backdrop to what I'm going to talk about. Okay, depression and anxiety are the two most commonest things, right? These are the commonest symptoms for depression, and it's low mood that's lasting for about 4 weeks, and it's got nothing to do with Man United losing consecutively, right? It's got nothing to do with your football. It's not like, you know that, like, I'll give you an example, right? And this is really important, right? So one of my other jobs is I appraise doctors every year, right? And I was appraising one doctor in Cheshire, and I was saying, how's your year been? She said, you know what? I thought I had a rough year because my husband lost his job and I was the main breadwinner, and my kids go to private schools. And you know, the government, they put the VAT on private schools 20%. Everybody's like, what? So she said, I had to, really bust a gut to work, and it was a rough year. And I came to the end of the year, and then one of my friends from school who I hadn't talked to for 20 years pinged me, nudged me on Facebook and said, just checking in with all my school friends because I've been diagnosed with ovarian cancer and I'm terminal. I just wanted to say, you know what, those years that we had at school were just amazing. I just wanted to check in with you before I die. And she said to me, I realized that actually my life isn't that bad. Did you get that? Hold on to that. So it's when you have a low mood for about 4 weeks for significant reasons, not lame reasons, okay? And this is the key thing, it affects what's called executive function. Executive function is you can't do the basic stuff of life. Can't get up, don't eat, struggle with sleep, don't pay your bills, don't brush your teeth, if you work, you're making mistakes, stuff that you're supposed to do for the kids, you're just supposed to pay for their school trip, you haven't done that, you're just really failing on basic executive function. That's when you start thinking about depression, okay? Now the severe side is when people hallucinate, they can see things, hear things that aren't there, they can not completely just stay in bed, they're just completely paralyzed, and also suicidal thoughts. That's the top end stuff, right? And then you have anxiety, which can come with depression and vice. They can come back together separately, and one can trigger the other. And it's that feeling of persistent, like constant feeling of dread. On edge. Something's going to go wrong. Really anxious, agitated, can't sleep, shaky, breathing's a bit fast, palpitations. You can't sleep because your mind's all racing. These are the common symptoms of general anxiety, and they're the commonest things that we see in general practice. Okay, commonest. Now, let me ask you a question. What are the causes? You asked about causes. Generally, it's the stresses of life. Generally. But a key thing that needs to be said is that it's called life. And life was not supposed to be hunky-dory. It never was. hunky-dory, right? But the problem is that never before in human history have we had so much wealth. If you get a chance, I was in Batley doing this a few weeks ago before Ramadan, and one of the Manas, Maulana Abu Bakr, he wrote a book. It took him 10 years to write about the history of Muslims in Batley. Should do this for Bolton. The history of Muslims in Bolton, and it was in Batley. And it was really interesting when these guys came over. Just think about these young people. You know, to go for a pee in the middle of the night, you had to go out of your house, regardless of what the weather was. If you wanted to have a ghusl, you had to go to a public bath. There were no baths at home. And look at now, you know, whatever time you want. You know, if it's a boiling hot day, you turn the tap, you get cold water. If it's a cold day, you turn the tap, you get boiling hot water. It's not like we're living like kings. Now, if you guys are bored, if someone's bored, like, I mean, there was a kid, I'm going to say this, man. If it was your kid, there was a kid, right? I came and there was about 6 rakats, and my guy was just on his phone. And this is what the generation we can do. If you're bored, some of you here, you can swipe right, get a chai wala delivered. You can buy a house. You can go on book a flight. You can swipe right, get a second wife. You can. There's not even any of that. You know that what we had to do. You know, now it's just like I'm a stud, you know, type of thing. It's really, you know. But the point is that because expectations are so high, I'm supposed to have a wonderful life. When life throws stuff at you, we can't cope. And there's only 3 stresses of adult life. That's it. 3 stresses. Financial stress, career stress, social stress, that's it. Financial stress is what? You know, the age-old complaint, I'm not earning enough, which is a lie. Which is a lie. One of my managers, she's a Christian. I was complaining to her about something, ages ago, early in my career. And she said, you know what, Zach? If you earn £100 a week, £1,000 a week, £10,000 a week, £1 million a week, you'll always complain that you haven't got enough money. I said, what are you talking about? She said, well, you'll find something to buy. And then it won't be enough. It's true, isn't it? There's people where I work. My guy went and bought a private number plate for £33,000. It was rubbish number plate as well. It was. And he's miserable as hell. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So sometimes it's self-inflicted. And you know I learned that from Hazrat. You know when you used to see Hazrat, you're like, no concern for clothes, shoes, coat, this, that. Just that beautiful to see, you know. Like we need more people like that. It's the opposite, isn't it? Hi guys, look at me. You know, that's just bonkers. So the social stress, what's the commonest social stress? Marital problems. 1/3 of Muslim marriages are failing, officially. And what is it? There's 2 things. Like, you know, the first thing is, let's just be honest, wife and mother-in-law. It's weird, isn't it? Like, you know, we can get a woman who's like this beautiful woman who's a wonderful wife, and then you've got your mother who's like this wonderful woman, beautiful mum, this and that. And then when they come together, it's like nuclear war. Like, how did that happen? It's true, isn't it? I think consistently across the board. You know, I thought this was an Asian thing, yeah? Believe me, right, I deal with 400 people a week. This is universal. White, black, brown, green, alien, whoever you are, right? Your wife and mother-in-law are just designed to, like, you know, right? And then it's when kids come in. Because there's disagreement with how you want to raise your kids, isn't there? Dad wants to do one way, mum wants to, they're just not, not in sync. That's what causes social stress, okay? And then obviously the wider community falling out on this and that. And then you have career stress, and career stress is 2 things. One, either you're in the job that you love, which is very rare, believe me, it's very rare, and you've got toxic work environment, or you're in a career that you hate, which is more common. Most people, what Oliver James is a brilliant psychologist, he said, most people have introjected values. People have told them, you need to be this. And in our culture, there's only 5 careers. A for accountant. B for barrister. C for consultant doctor. D for dentist. E for engineer. F for failure. That's it. That's it. That's how. That's right. Imagine if your kid come home and said, I want to be an artist. What? I slap you silly, man. What are you going to do with that? You understand? That's it, right? But then believe me, if you're put, because there was near the hospital where I work. There's a consultant, he was a consultant anaesthetist, and he was earning. They're probably on about at least 140k a year. I mean, that's an amazing wage. Like the average wage in the country is £32,000 a year. You're like, you know, quadruple that. And then he jacked it all in, and then he came in local newspaper, Manchester Evening News, and he said, I earn half the money. And I'm a hairdresser. because I never wanted to, school or parents or, yes, white folk tell their kids to be doctors as well, not just agents, right? Yeah, my parents or my school told me to be, I didn't want to be a doctor, you know? And so this is what, and then people get really, really stressed out with life. But like I said, everybody experiences these. Why do some people push through and some people don't? And this is where it gets a bit tricky. The ultimate reason why people don't push through, some people don't push through, is because there's 3 elements that have never been addressed. And this is where it gets a bit, if you want to get your tissues out, it's okay, lads, okay? Number 1 is trauma. There are a lot of people who have experienced significant extreme trauma in their life. Loads. It can be a death of a loved one, it can be bullying, it can be isolation, it can be exclusion. Believe it or not, the commonest that we see, and this is where it gets a bit tricky, but I'm just going to say it, we have to have adult conversations. The hardest thing for a child growing up seeing is mum and dad arguing with each other. There's no debate here, khalas. They cannot stomach it. They cannot stomach looking at their mum and dad argue and fight, and nothing worse than curse, swear, and there's nothing worse than hitting someone. ما ضرب بكفه صلى الله عليه وسلم امرأة ولا ولد ولا خادم. It's in the Shema'ah. The Prophet ﷺ never struck a woman, a child, or anyone who served him. Never. And it's just wrong. And every childhood psychologist agrees on this. It destroys children. Destroys children. I've had to help children in our communities, self-harming, and the one thing that's bothering them is mum and dad are just at each other's throats. My message is, Kabini, ever, abadan, never. There's no debate. Don't ever have an argument in front of your kids. Ever. You're adults, for God's sake. You should be able to control yourself. It destroys them. Don't ever say anything nasty about your wife or your wife about your husband, ever anyway, but in front of the kids. Don't ever say anything nasty about your in-laws in front of the kids. That's their grandparents. They love them unconditionally. All a child needs is to be loved unconditionally. What does that mean? No matter what, I'm going to love you and I'm going to show you what love is. It's really traumatic for them. Number 2 is love, not being loved. And you only need to be loved by a few people, not the million followers on. It's all a blag. It's all a blag, right? You don't need million followers on Insta, this and that. You just need to be loved by a few groups of people. Who's that? Parents, siblings, your brother, sister, children, wife or husband, if you're a woman, and that's it. People come and go in your life. Friends come and go. It's not a big issue. But these people, you need to be loved unconditionally. And what that means is I love you and I'm with you to the end no matter what. If I fall, you're still here. And if you fall, I'm still here. That's what love is. That's what love is. Okay, and if that's absent in a human being's life, and we'll talk about love in 2 nights on Sunday night, forget it, I'm telling you. And then the last one, what psychologists say is purpose, which is what we're going to spend more time on. But I just want you to watch a video to just illustrate this, okay? Let's see if this works.
Do you want tea or coffee or anything?
I'm alright for the time being, thank you.
Okay. You look really well. What have you been up to?
Lots of rock climbing, lots.
That sounds good. So, how's life these days?
Yeah, things are good. Got a job, got a girlfriend, got a little boy. I never let go for what I went through. Still having the nightmares though. But my eg's under control. I trust people more. I'm getting a bit better now. You know, it's like I can see a way out. That one from Bernardo's alright. We talk a lot. And I trust her. Everyone else can just do one.
Woman from Bernardo's doesn't give up. Keeps asking why I nick stuff, do drugs, hit people. I told her where to go. Told my foster parents where to go. Just like the last ones. Don't trust no one. I ain't changing.
They laughed at me at the bus stop. Said I was thick. Won't say that again.
Mommy's boyfriend hates me. I tried hard, but he always finds me. I'm scared.
Do you want to just...
That was pretty powerful, that, wasn't it? But that's what we see. I'll give you an example. I was in clinic, and it's weird. This 6'2" guy and this woman who's like 4 foot something, she's dragging him in, which looked weird in the first place, right? And she throws him on the chair, on my blue chair, and says, sort him out, he's going to kill someone. I said, you're going to kill someone? He goes, yeah, man, I'm mad as hell. I said, why? He goes, you lot. So, there's this thing in psychology called pattern interruption. try it. It's so much fun. So I said, because he's going to expect me to go, what? So I went, me? And he went, no, not you, but, you know, you lot. I went, what's you lot? And he went, you know, you Muslimic lot. I went, oh, right, got you. I said, right, well, why are we making you angry? And he's going on about this, about that, and this. I was like, okay, whatever. And I thought, you know what? Forget this 10-minute rule. You only get 10 minutes per patient. I was like, oh, man, this guy's mine now. So I spent about half an hour with him and convinced him that the problems that you're having is not because of Muslimic lot people, actually. It's because of, you know, these sort of things. Like, he was beaten up black and blue when he was a kid by his dad. And then he liked me so much after that, mashallah, mashallah, it's from Allah. And then he booked an appointment to invite me to his wedding. So he booked an appointment, he gave me his card, and he said, you know what, bro, if you don't come to my wedding, I'm going to kill you. So I looked at him, I thought, this guy's 6'2". I could put up a fight, but I'm going to get battered by him because he's too big, right? And I looked at the card, and I thought, alhamdulillah, it fell in Ramadan. So I said, look, bro, you know, in Ramadan, I don't eat, I don't dance, I don't sing, I don't do anything like that, man. I'm going to be really boring at your wedding. And he went, oh. And then when I left, he booked an appointment just to say, you leaving? I said, yeah. He said, right, here's my number. If you don't keep in touch, I'm going to kill you. But it started, and you've got many men like that, you know, who've got it. So the key message is that you've got to deal with what, there's always a festering sore. There's always when you find that, okay, I can't push through the life stresses, right? It could be that you just need coaching in that area, or there's a festering sore, usually from childhood, that you haven't dealt with. Usually from childhood, okay? And this is a famous saying, like, if you don't deal with your demons, they're going to deal with you for the rest of your life. And it's going to hurt. It's going to be painful. So whatever that demon is, just have a think, because, you know, there's no shaitan now. You could, I don't know about you, but I love Ramadan because you can have so much headspace. You can think straight, can't you? It's like the world just stops, doesn't it? It's amazing, Ramadan. Allah make every day like Ramadan for us, inshallah. And you know, you can, you know, read the life of, you know, our greats like Maulana Sheikh Ahmad Gangohi rahimahullah, Khalil Ahmad Saharunpuri rahimahullah, Maulana Abdurrahim Raipuri rahimahullah, Sheikh Zakariya rahimahullah. You know, their Ramadan and outside Ramadan was the same. Their days and nights in out Ramadan was no different. No different whatsoever. There's one brother, and we can, you know, there's one brother, you know, you know, Hazrat used to say to us, he was in South Africa, and in the morning, he'd get into his car, he'd deliver, you know, blood samples and urine samples and stuff like that, specimens. He'd take it from the family's clinic to the hospital for testing. He'd get out of his house at 8 o'clock, and he'd start Surah Fatiha, and then he'd get home at 6 o'clock, and he'd be on Surah Nas. And every day he'd read the whole Quran without a mushaf. And this is somebody in our generation. You see, it is possible, but you've got to deal with it, otherwise it's going to hurt. Now, I'm not trying to save GP appointments, because I'm a GP, yeah, but you don't need a GP, okay? All you've got to do is just Google, so that's where I live, Trafford, that was, the talks near my masjid where I gave this talk recently, last. But if you type Bolton IAPT, yeah, improving access to psychological therapy, you can self-refer. You don't need to go to a GP unless you're on the top end stuff like being suicidal or hallucinating, or you just can't move, basically. But you've got to go and seek therapy, okay? And I've got to add this in, right? I strongly recommend that when you go and seek therapy, make sure it's faith-based, because our religion has a massive part to play with managing mental health, and we'll finish on this. But I'll also say there are a lot of blaggers out there. So I have a friend, he's in Leicester, he teaches Muslims how to do Islamic counselling. And I gave a seminar with him, and I asked him, I said, is it okay for me to say that there's a lot of blaggers out there? He goes, there are a lot of blaggers out there. There are people out there who just do a one-off access course online, never seen a patient, grow their daddy so it's long enough, put on some thobe and then say, hey, I'm the Muslim, counsellor, and they are making a monumental mess of people's lives. So be really, really careful who you go and see. Make sure, it's okay to ask, where did you learn? How many people have you seen? What's your success rate, etc., etc. But when you go and seek therapy, do it where you have a what they call a God-centric base. That Allah is at the base of your therapy, okay? Because they're two different outcomes. And what a therapist will tell you to do is how to put perspective into things, and how to reframe it, and then how to manage emotions and thought processes so that behavior changes. Go back to that man who, I nearly crashed because I'm driving safely and he cuts me up. I could have made that a mess and got into a fight. Whereas actually just changing perspectives and perceptions and managing to regulate my emotions and thought processes saved me from negative outcomes. Okay, and that's the process that you got to do. Now, the hardest bit for men about pitching up at these things is that they find it hard to talk. And the reason why they find it hard to talk is why? It's just this shame that I'm not man enough. You hear this a lot. I'm not man enough. Okay, but let me tell you the prophetic definition of a man. Once the Sahaba, Sahaba, they were sat with the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ was jovial, and he asked him, he said, who's a man? Define a man. And they said, the one who can floor the other. And the Prophet ﷺ said, that's not a man. He said, a man who can control himself when he's angry. Now you ask anybody, whether they're a psychologist or whether they're a sheikh of a tariqah, teaching someone how to traverse the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the hardest emotion to regulate, to manage is anger. What was the Prophet ﷺ saying? What he was saying is that the real man is someone who can have emotional regulation. Because if you can control anger, that's the hardest spiritual disease to control. If you can control anger, you've broken shaitan. Imam Ghazali rahimahullah, he said, he quotes a few of our scholars in Ihya. He said, the one who, if someone's wronged you, and then you can give them dua, you've conquered shaitan. Forget your nafs, you've conquered shaitan. And who was that? The Messenger of Allah. Imagine being in a state of war, and your entire, friends from another city come out to completely annihilate you and everybody that's under you just because you're Muslim. And it was Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas' brother who threw that stone and chipped the tooth of the Prophet ﷺ. And what did he say? Allahumma ghfir li qawmi fa innahum la ya'lamun. Oh Allah, forgive. He didn't say qawm, oh ha'ula. He said, my people. Look at that shafqat. And then he made an excuse for them. فَإِنَّهُمْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Like that is, for me, that is ultimate man. Like what a man. In that state, someone just chips his tooth and he's bleeding, and then he turns around and says, Allahumma ghfir lahum فَإِنَّهُمْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. What a man. Now think about that. And this will end with this. Look, every single thing that happened, that we see in our life, you being here now, or everything that's happened to you in your life, it's nothing but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mashiyat being planned out. It's just what Allah wanted. And that should give us so much tasalli. So much tasalli. Why? One of our teachers, we were in class, right? I've still got, but I'm going to close in a bit because I'm coming up to 10 o'clock. I've still got 46 slides. But I'm going to stop because one of my problems, Mona Hassan, is that I just don't know how to stop. And I'm conscious of time, but I'll end with this. We were in class once in Sirah, and one of the brothers, he said to one of our teachers, he said, okay, Shaykh, the Prophet ﷺ was known as Habibullah. He said, yep. He said, okay, then why did Allah put him through so much? So we were young at that time. We looked at this brother and were like, man, what are you saying, man? You know that? What a dumb guy, man, asking that question. What an intelligent question. Because what did the Prophet ﷺ experience? Never saw his, just think about this, he never saw his father. Never saw his father. And then his mother passed away when he was how old? 6. And he explained to us, why did Amina radiallahu anhu take the Prophet ﷺ to Medina? So his dad was buried there. But he said, why? And he said, well, when it's possible, only Allah knows, but it's possible. He said his own reflections is that the Prophet ﷺ, when he was 5, 6 years old, he must have been with his mum in the marketplace of Mecca and pulling at his mum's clothes saying, Mum, so-and-so's got a mum and dad, so-and-so's got, where's my dad? Yeah. Only an ashik would think like that. We don't think like, we just see it as like, oh. And then she passed away, so they went to Medina, and on the way back at Abwa, so he witnessed his mum passing away at the age of 6. He witnessed Ayman burying his mother. Just think about that. Now he's not going to be like, okay, mum's died. He's going to be bawling like a baby because his mum's died, and then he's got to leave. Imagine that walk back to Mecca knowing that my mother's been buried. Then he's raised by his grandfather. For 2 years, grandfather passes away, then Abu Talib, and then the Orientalists, we don't talk like this, we don't use this language. But the Orientalists say, he got married at 25 and then 40. Between the ages, those periods, it was what they call quote unquote uneventful. But we don't use these terms. And then the Orientalists say that when he hit 40, when he had prophecy, the Orientalists say everything went downhill. We don't talk like that. We don't talk like that. What do they mean? He was ridiculed, swore at, cursed, hit, boycott. They had to leave Makkah. All the Muslims had to leave Makkah for 3 years in a valley that they called Valley of Abu Talib. And the Prophet Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, one of the early generations, he was the 7th convert. He was 17 years old when he converted. He said, those 3 years were so hard. We were so hungry because there was so much of a boycott. No one would buy and sell. We couldn't actually get food. It had to be sneaked in. But there were some nights where none of us could sleep, and we would just pace up and down in the darkness. No street lights in those days. Dark. And he said, my foot stood on something. It was squidgy. So I picked it up. I was that hungry. I put it in my mouth. He said, to this day, I had no idea what it was. That's what they had to experience. Then they come out of the Valley of Abu Talib. Okay, and then after that, what happens? Still, the Muslims aren't, Muslims are progression. So the Quraysh decide, let's just assassinate him. So they want to assassinate him. Then he has to leave. And when he leaves and goes to Medina, which is like from London to Manchester, right? He goes north. Within the first year, 1,000 people of Makkah come out to annihilate 313 at Badr. Then 18 months after, you have 3,000 coming to, completely destroy Medina Munawwara. Then a few years after, you've got Khandaq, where 10,000 come to completely destroy the entire Muslim community. The Prophet ﷺ witnessed the loss of all his children except who? Fatima radiallahu anha. She passed away 6 months after him, but he lost all his children. His other 3 daughters and 3 boys. I mean, that's heavy, isn't it? That's heavy, isn't it? Okay, we don't use these terms for the Prophet ﷺ. We don't use these terms. But look, the Prophet ﷺ, we don't use these terms, but just for the purpose of understanding, according to Orientalists, that's traumatic. Right? We don't use these terms. Okay? So the Shaykh said, look, the reason why the Messenger of Allah ﷺ had to go through all this, it was necessary for him to go through all of that to become what he was destined to become. He was destined to become what? Not only Habibullah, but Rahmatul Lil Alameen. Okay, what's Rahmah? Rahmah is above everything else. You can love someone and you can not love someone. But you can show Rahmah to someone that you love and Rahmah to someone that you don't love. Agreed? You can't you? And the Prophet ﷺ showed Rahmah to every single creation. And the Shaykh then said that how can someone, a human being, show Rahmah if they have no idea what the other person is going through? It's impossible. There's a difference between sympathy and empathy. And empathy is the highest level of showing compassion to someone. And that's what Rahmah is. But it was necessary for the Prophet ﷺ to experience all these quote-unquote traumatic events to become what he was destined to become. Therefore, whatever you're experiencing in your life, whatever you're enduring in your life, it's not there to break you. It's there to teach you. It's necessary for you to go through these ups and downs because you're destined to become something great. And all the skills that you're going to learn on this journey that Allah's called life, you will see it when the time dictates that it comes out. Because look, not only is life going to throw stuff at you, it'll throw stuff at your children, at your parents, at your friends, at your colleagues, at your wife, whoever. And if you've been through that roughness and you know how to manage it, do not underestimate how much of a lifeline you will be for that other person. And if that's the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put you through some serious stresses, it's good enough. Imam Shafi radiallahu anhu was someone who was on death row. The Khalifa at that time wanted to end his life. And then Imam Shafi'i met Shaitan. There was a young brother, Miskeen, he begged Allah, Allah show me Shaitan. So the scholars were saying, no, don't be a dumb, don't make that dua. He goes, no, he goes, I'm going to knock him out. So you're all laughing at you, and this ulama were like, just don't, right? And he did, and then Allah showed him Shaitan. So he got his fists ready, and then he said, Shaitan said to me, you know what? And he was in his 20s, he said, you know what? If I didn't know that you were going to live till you were 90, I'd have battered you right now, I'd have took your life. And the young man, he stopped and he went, I'm going to live till I'm 90. Shaitan went, yes, and disappeared. And the brother went, I'm going to live till I'm 90. Happy days. So he went off rail. And in no time he passed away. The Shaitan, he's a faqih. He's very intelligent with shar, with evil. You see? So Imam Shafi'i met Shaitan. And Shaitan said, what's this? You know, Allah's destined everything for you and good happens, bad happens. What's that? And Imam Shafi'i said to him, Ya hada. He said, look, oh thing. He said, look, if I was to rewrite my life, I would do it exactly how Allah has done it for me, because it was absolutely perfect in every moment. And that's the state of a believer. That's the state of a believer. Because look, let's end with this. You know, yesterday you would have read كل نفس ذائقة الموت وإنما توفون أجوركم يوم القيامة فمن زحزح عن النار وأدخل الجنة فقد فاز وما الحياة الدنيا إلا متاع الغرور. Everybody's going to taste death. Okay, we'll leave you with this. Everybody's going to taste death. We're all going to die. Allah give us all long, barakati life, inshallah, with afiyat and salamat and goodness, right? It's good to ask for long, blessed lives. It's good to ask for Allah, give us that. But look, we don't know, like, how many people in this musalla who were here last Ramadan, but they're not here this Ramadan. You see, and age isn't, you know, it can be any age, right? But let me ask you something. This is what I say to my patients. If you had 1 week to live and you knew you had 1 week to live, would you let half the rubbish that drives you mad, would you let it drive you mad? And the answer is always what? No. But that's the truth. Like, you and I don't know when our last day is. So just ask yourself, what am I going mad about? That's of no significance. And then what do I need to shift my, what do I need to shift my everything towards? And ultimately, it's in that verse, فَمَنْ زُحْزِعَ عَنِ النَّارِ وَأُدْخِلَ الْجَنَّةِ. Real success is those who are saved from the fire of Jahannam and enter into the realm of paradise. And we all know how to get there. The way is easy. It's just the way of prophecy. Allah give us tawfiq to just wake up to that notion. Wake up to that notion. You know, our Hazrat used to say to us, when you wake up in the morning, just forget. He used to say, it's a hard thing to do this. He used to say, forget food. Really hard, Hazrat. What are you doing to me? Forget food, forget your work, forget what you're going to wear today. You know what? Forget your this. Just ask yourself, where am I in my relationship with the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? Like, what a beautiful way to just live your life. And now, if we make that our concern, I'm telling you, because I've seen it in people, your life just like Allah throws the world at you. Like, I know people, you know, mashallah, they're millionaires and they don't want to be. And it's like, I don't want this world. I'm just engrossed in Allah, and Allah's making me a millionaire. It's ajib, isn't it? And those who chase it just get lost chasing it. And then there's people who like don't want it, and they like wake up with, and I mean this, they wake up with money under their pillow in 2026. I know. Allah make us from amongst them, inshallah. That'd be so great. That'd be amazing, wouldn't it? Allah give us tawfiq, inshallah. Any questions before we close? And ask, look, you know, it's not easy to get an appointment with me, you know. Any questions? If not, we'll stop there. Tomorrow we'll do addictions, specifically on phones. I shouldn't have said that, because you're not going to come now. You'll never come, because actually this is really killing us. And then Sunday we'll talk about love, inshallah. No questions? We'll stop there, inshallah.
Thank you very much. It was so good. Just one quick question. Like, what about the endogenous depression or the depression running in families? Like,
Yeah, that's really hard. Because in the family,